guys, Kissy Bug here. I'm sorry I've been away for so long. Been busy working, and then we had holidays and stuff. Life's just been kind of crazy. I wanted to talk to you guys today about the roles that are played in abusive families and other information. And the reason why I wanted to talk about some of the stuff in this Speak Out is it goes back to the interview that was done by Boogie. One thing that has been on my mind in regards to that is that the mastermind himself referred to himself as the golden child. And because of that, I wanted to touch on the roles played in abusive families and what effects that may linger for each role that is played in such a dysfunctional family setting. Another thing that bothered me about the mastermind is him stating that he wasn't abused. What does a situation look like for a child living in a dysfunctional household who is quote-unquote not abused? I mean, we all know he was from time to time, but let's just examine this as a hypothetical situation. We'll get into that, but first, let's talk about these family roles. So the first role I'm going to talk about is the enabler. An enabler is someone who is like a caretaker of their family. It is also known as a codependent family role. An enabler is basically someone who tries to protect and keep the family going. They are like the martyr of the family. They repeatedly take on the abuser's or addict's problems and responsibilities. They don't know how to say no to certain things, and they give in to whatever is asked of them, even if they know that it's wrong and can be dangerous. They will always support the dysfunctional behavior. Please keep in mind that children can take on this role if one of the parents is impaired in some way, whether it be by mental illness or a disability of some sort, or if the parent is abusing drugs or alcohol. Whether it be an adult or a child who fills this role in the dysfunctional household, it should be noted that the enabler will worry and stress over their family. They will nurture, console, and listen. An enabler protects and takes care of the problems of the family, so that no negativity can come to the problem parent or spouse. The problem parent or spouse cannot face the consequences of their actions. The enabler feels he or she must act this way because otherwise the family might not survive. I feel that the mastermind's mother fits this role, and even the mastermind himself. And most importantly, he enabled both his father and his brother, so there's that. The next role is the hero. The hero's role is making the family appear normal and to make them look good. The hero can mask and make up for the dysfunction in their household. They are over-responsible, self-sufficient, and are overachievers and perfectionists. Parents often look to this child to provide proof that their family is good and that they are good parents and good people. The hero must always appear to be brave and strong. They learn at a young age to suffer the sadness of a parent and become a surrogate spouse or confidant. As an adult, the hero is rigid, controlling, and extremely judgmental, although perhaps very subtle about it, and of others and secretly of themselves. They achieve success on the outside and get lots of positive attention, but are cut off from their inner emotional life, from their true self. They are compulsive and driven as adults because deep inside they feel inadequate and insecure. The hero, because of their success in conforming to the dysfunctional cultural definitions of what constitutes doing life right, is often the child in the family who as an adult has the hardest time even admitting that there's anything within themselves that needs to be healed. Who does that sound like? The golden child. The golden child will struggle to compete with the hero role. In a narcissistic family, the golden child is the recipient of the narcissistic parents' positives and is their favorite child. Now let me point out something very important here. The mastermind said he was the golden child and that he wasn't abused in that interview, right? Here's something to consider and remember. The golden child is usually a victim of emotional and/or covert sexual abuse by the narcissistic parent. He or she is also witness to and sometimes takes part in the other children's abuse. Many specialists believe that witnessing your siblings' abuse is as damaging as receiving it. So let's go back to that interview. The mastermind said that his older two siblings got the most abuse from their father, which is why I said that he had to know that even if he wasn't the one being abused, that there would be lasting effects from witnessing abuse of his siblings by his father. So even if he wasn't abused, so to speak, which again we all know differently, witnessing the abuse did have some lasting effects on him. Where did the food addiction come from? Probably the stress of his environment and being fearful all the time. Food became his comfort tool. The scapegoat. The scapegoat is considered a problem child or troublemaker. This family member always seems defiant, hostile, and angry. They are the truth teller of the family. And I noticed someone said in either a comment or a tweet on Twitter that the mastermind's brother was the one who was always willing to tell the truth. I have to agree with that to a degree. The mastermind's brother has nothing to lose. They have taken everything from him as it is. He has said repeatedly that he wanted to out everything on the family, to quote-unquote expose his family. This is the child that the family feels ashamed of, and the most emotionally honest child in the family. He or she acts out the tension and anger the family ignores. This child provides distraction from the real issues in the family. The scapegoat gets all the negative attention. They can never do anything right, and as a result, they serve as a distraction from what's really going on in their family. The scapegoat usually has trouble in school because they get attention the only way they know how, which is negatively. The scapegoat is sacrificed for the family, and the brother has been definitely sacrificed for his family over and over again. We can all agree on that, I'm sure. Scapegoats are often self-destructive, cynical, and even mean, which is honestly sad that a child would be treated so horribly that this becomes their outcome later in life. In a narcissistic family, the scapegoat, or a no-good child, is the recipient of the narcissistic parent's negatives. And in the mastermind's father's eyes, his scapegoated son never did anything right. And the mastermind even felt the need to tear into his brother too, even after he enabled him. They often become pregnant or addicted as teenagers. These children are usually the most sensitive and caring, which is why they feel such tremendous hurt. They are also romantics who become very cynical and distrustful. They have a lot of self-hatred and can be very self-destructive. This often results in this child becoming the first person in the family to get into some kind of recovery. Please remember this. The scapegoat is usually a victim of emotional and physical abuse by the narcissistic parent. And we know the old man was good for doing both to his family members. The lost child, also known as the adjuster. The lost child role is known to be the quiet one or a dreamer. They try to stay out of everyone's way, thus making themselves invisible or little. They tend to spend a lot of time alone. The purpose of having a lost child in the family is similar to that of the hero, because the lost child is rarely in trouble, and that can also be used in a dysfunctional family to appear to be normal people with nothing to hide, because this child is not getting into trouble or causing problems either, just like the hero role. This child avoids having too many interactions with family members, choosing instead to avoid the chaos in the family. They become loners or are very shy. Because they don't interact, they never have a chance to develop important social and communication skills. The lost child often has poor communication skills, difficulties with intimacy, and in forming relationships. They deny that they have any feelings and don't bother to get upset. They deal with reality by withdrawing from it. These children grow up to be adults who find themselves unable to feel and suffer very low self-esteem. They are terrified of intimacy and often have relationship phobia. They are very withdrawn and shy and become socially isolated because that is the only way they know to be safe from being hurt. A lot of actors and writers are lost children who have found a way to express emotions while hiding behind their characters. To the narcissistic parent, this child simply doesn't matter. They are not perceived as a threat or a good source of supply, but they are usually victim of neglect and emotional abuse. In this case, I'll let you decide who you think fits this role the best. The mascot. The goal of the family mascot is to break the tension and lighten the mood with humor and antics. They are often referred to as the cute one. The mascot seeks to be the center of attention in the family, often entertaining the family and making everyone feel better through comedy. They may also use humor to communicate and to confront the family dysfunction rather than address it directly. The mastermind tries to do this too. If he can laugh it away, he doesn't have to deal with addressing anything. They also use humor to communicate repressed emotions in the family, such as anger, grief, hostility, or fear. The mascot commonly has difficulty concentrating and focusing on learning, and this makes school or work difficult. Hence, they are also referred to as the slacker. This child becomes an adult who is valued for their kind heart, generosity, and ability to listen to others. Their whole self-definition is centered on others, and they don't know how to get their own needs met. They become adults who cannot receive love, only give it. They often have caseloads rather than friendships and get involved in abusive relationships in an attempt to save the other person. They go into the helping professions and become nurses and social workers and therapists. They have very low self-worth and feel a lot of guilt that they work very hard to overcome by being really nice, i.e., people-pleasing and classically codependent people. What does the hypothetical situation look like that I mentioned in the beginning of the Speak Out? Alright, let's for argument's sake say that he wasn't abused, but everyone in his household was going through some form of abuse by his father, even if he wasn't abused. The results are still going to be the same for the lasting effects on witnessing the abuse in his home, such as emotional problems, crying, anxiety, sadness, confusion, anger, which can be directed toward either parent or other children, depression, suicidal behavior, nightmares, fears, and phobias. In younger children and babies, eating and sleeping disorders are common. Children can also suffer from PTSD, also known as post-traumatic stress disorder. Behavioral problems, aggression, becoming troublesome at home or at school, withdrawing into or isolating to themselves, regressive behaviors such as baby talk, wanting bottles, etc. Lower academic achievements. Physical problems, bedwetting, nervous tics, headaches or stomach aches, nausea or vomiting, eating disorders, insomnia, and one thing I want to mention as well. Children witnessing domestic violence can also result in a very painful break in a relationship with a non-abusing parent. Quite often, women report that their children have chosen to side with their abusive father against them, further emotionally or even physically abusing their mother, and even choosing to live with their abusive father just when the mother has managed to leave the abusive relationship. It would also seem that abusive husbands are often in a better position to gain residence of the children. What did the mastermind do? He decided to side with his father, further emotionally abusing his mother, especially when she was finally in a position to get out of her abusive marriage, to which he said was very toxic, and that his mother had endured years and years of emotional abuse by his father. I want to point out, however, that children cannot be blamed for making this choice. They have had years of witnessing the interaction between their parents and have learned that the father is the stronger person, the mother was the weaker one, or so it appears from their perspective. For them and their survival, it would seem most sensible to throw their lot in with the stronger parent and at the same time maybe be able to avoid the anger and any abuse coming their way. While this is understandable, it is immensely painful for their mother. Finally, of course, for children witnessing domestic violence, it is only too common for the children themselves to be either abused or to be drawn into and used further to abuse the mother. A common feeling amongst parents is that it is somehow better to stay together for the sake of the children, but for children witnessing domestic violence, they would often prefer separation and an end to the trouble. As well as the physical violence often found in abusive relationships, the children will almost certainly be subjected to frequent emotional abuse of the mother in the form of name-calling, accusations, and threats made by the abuser in their presence. The children's own self-esteem is battered by being shouted at, told they are stupid or not trying hard enough, or given mixed messages by being favored one moment and put down the next. Quite apart from possible physical involvement or direct abuse, these emotionally damaging actions have a detrimental and often long-lasting effect on the children. So, we know what he said was a big fat lie. We know he was abused but feels the need to paint a rosy picture of his father. We know he has an eating disorder, being a food addiction. We know he shows signs of being fearful of things. We know he can't handle even a confrontation. We even see the same kind of anger his father used to display from time to time. So come on, Mastermind, I call BS on your claims that you weren't abused. We know you were, and so was your mother and your siblings, so stop lying already. Let's talk about triangulation. The term is typically used to describe an individual who creates drama or confusion using 3 or more people in a situation. I wanted to point out that the mastermind is good at triangulation. There are 3 components to triangulation. The victim. This label describes an individual who carries an attitude in some situations, if not all, of poor me, while there are cases in which the person is the victim due to how they are being treated by others. The triangle describes a person who creates a triangle in such a way that they become the victim. The persecutor. This label describes an individual who attacks the others who are participants in the triangle. The rescuer. This is a person who either within the created triangle or outside of the triangle that acts as a rescuer or someone who is the saving grace. Case in point. The interview, for example. He plays the victim. Meanwhile, we, the audience, are perceived as the attacks for wanting him to address the allegations against him. And then his friend comes to his rescue to protect him. See? Don't let him fool you. Someone who engages in a pathological lying and troublemaking often reenacts the triangle in many areas of life, including the workplace, school, neighborhood, and home environment. The triangle is sometimes intentionally created to create chaos and make the person creating the chaos appear as the victim. Alright guys, I'm sorry if this was long, but some of the stuff that he said in the interview had bugged me. So I wanted to talk about it and I guess show you that he's lying. Not that you couldn't already see that for yourselves. I did a lot of research on this. As always, I hope this helps you or someone you know going through it. I love you guys so much, and I hope you guys had a good holiday, and take care of yourselves. I'll talk to you later. Bye.